Alright, so in the last set of tutorials we created a space shooter, 3D space shooter. We're going to take a look at creating a very basic humanoid character animation system, and then looking at furthering our scripting knowledge with moving around or playing with this character, like having our character pick up coins and things like that. Um, so let's take a look at creating a new Unity project. I want to show you, before we continue on, I wanted to show you the sort of things you can do. So here are a couple of characters that have the animator component attached. These are our main character's parents for our splash screen. So if I click on New Game, it fades out. Then we have our main player here with a run animation on him. You know, so what we're looking to do is take our main character and our animations and all that good stuff and link them into one character that can be controlled by our keyboard and mouse or joystick, or in our case, a mobile device. So let's go ahead and go to File, Open Project. Or, I'm sorry, File, New Project. And if you remember before on our desktop, we created a new folder called Mobile Development Projects. So I'm going to make a new folder in here and just call this Character Movement. Select that folder, and I'm going to leave all of these unchecked for now because we could always add packages later, and hit Create. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video until it opens. So now that we have our Unity project in place, let's take a look at how we would import in our character animations. So I have two files here. I have my main Leo file, and then I have a run file here. Now the run file is going to be exported differently than the initial root file. Now look at the naming of our Leo run here. It's Leo at, just like you do at Gmail, run.mb. Now we're going to export all of these guys as an FBX. I'd suggest that you have your model near completion before you export it. You know, like all the skinning is done and all this other stuff. Because there's a big problem inside of Unity. And what that is if the skinning of this model, what I mean by skinning is like the bone system connected to the joints. If the weighting of each vertex is different between this model and this one, Unity will not understand or not be able to detect that this model here is a child of this one. So you should always take your initial model when it's done with it and then animate it. So every quarter, every semester goes by, regardless of the institution I teach at, there's always someone who struggles with getting their animations to connect. Like they're like, why isn't he running? I'm doing all the scripting right. The reason is because your weighting is different from model to model. So your model has to be exactly the same. So always, just to repeat myself, always animate with the initial model, original model, and don't change bone names, don't change any of that stuff. Alright, so let's take a look at how we would actually export our model. So I'm going to go to my initial folder, and I'm going to go to Export All. I'm going to go down to FBX Export. Now, inside that folder, on our desktop, we have our mobile development projects, character movement, assets. Inside of here, I'm going to make a new folder, and we'll call it characters. Within characters, I'm going to make another folder called PC. That's for our playable characters. And within PC, I'm going to make a new folder called Leo. Now in that Leo folder, this initial file, which doesn't have any animation attached to it, is just called Leo. And I'm going to hit Export All. But there's a few things I need to make sure. One, I want to embed media. Embed media will actually export the texture and everything with it in a tight little package. The next thing I want to do is go to animation, and I want to make sure it's checked off for my initial character. That means this guy has no animations on him. Otherwise, it'll struggle with animating sorting inside of Unity. Okay, I mean, we can also check off bake animation inside of Unity, but it just makes it easier. And then I'm just going to hit Export All. And then when we jump back into Unity, we'll give this a second to update everything. You'll see it created a characters folder for us. PC, Leo, and there's our Leo model with the embedded texture. So if I drag him into the scene, and I hit F to focus on him, you can see there he is. Alright. I'm going to grab my main camera, drop it on top of Leo, and then I'm going to reset the position. That'll bring my character right on top of my Leo model. Now my Leo model scale is relatively small compared to my main camera, so I'm just going to continue to scale up Leo. Ideally you would have this done before you even enter a game. Let's go ahead and create a plane underneath him so he's got something to walk on. Let's go to Game Object, create other directional light. I'm going to go ahead and turn on shadows. I'm going to bring our character down to the floor. Alright. To see our character a little bit better, I'm just going to go down into his hierarchy and just sort of select the two meshes. Here's Leo and Leo book bag. I'm going to change it to vertex lit. You know what, let's do or unlit texture because he's cartoony, and let's do the same for his book bag. Unlit texture, and it'll just help us see him better in the game. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S, and I'm going to name this level, so let's go ahead and make a scenes folder. I'm going to make this called testbed. So this isn't necessarily level 1, this is just how we're going to test our character's running around movement and things like that. In another level we would actually build out the buildings and things like that, and we'll continue to do that throughout this tutorial. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at how you would export this run. So we have our really nice run here. I'm going to go ahead and do File, Export All. This time, because I don't need that texture, it's already on my main guy, I'm going to turn on Bake Animations. So go to Animation, Bake Animation, because we want to bake that into the skin of our model, and make sure that you're looking at the entire timeline. My animation is 21 frames. Let's go down. Let's see. Geometry. Everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to just name this Leo at run. And I'm making sure that my initial Leo is spelled the exact same way as the original model. Otherwise it will not link up. So let's go to Desktop, Mobile Device, Assets, Characters, PC, Leo. But within this folder I make another folder called ANIMS for animations or anims. And then I export it in there. I want to make sure embed media is off as well. Alright, let's jump back into here. You can see it created an anims folder for us. We're still waiting for that animation to export. I'm going to pause the video and let it work its way out. You can see here we have our Leo at run. When I go to animation, let's maximize this, and I press play, you can see that it exported the animation. And it's linked up to my original Leo model. So if I select my original Leo, let's select them from here, you can see he has this animator component. Let me go ahead and talk a little bit about the animator component before we continue. The animator is what we're going to use to link up our animation. Some things that I like to have on, where it says update mode, normal, animated physics, unscaled time, I just leave it on normal. I'm not going to be doing any physics animation with this guy. The next thing is culling mode. What this means is how our character looks or is rendered by the camera. The animations rather. So for example, if I have always animate on, it can get pretty expensive if our characters are always animating. So I usually leave based on renderers, and that means when our character is in the view of the camera, it's the only time it renders. So if you have background characters who are doing looping animations like talking or whatever, I always leave based on renderers on. Okay, so that's the end of this tutorial. When I come back, I'm going to have an anims folder full of animations.